Hi there. Welcome to New Tracks Modeling. New Tracks is an exciting new digital opportunity to obtain mentoring to help you improve your modeling. You will meet talented modelers and manufacturers from all over the world who share their model building skills and artistic advice. Improve your modeling and increase the confidence in your modeling efforts. Share your building efforts with fellow modelers and have some fun doing it. The shows are live on Zoom and YouTube, so be sure to join in and ask your questions. Now here is New Tracks founder and your host, Jim Kello, MMR.
Joining us this evening. We really do appreciate it. Before we start the show, I want to mention something to you. We're having trouble getting the Zoom link mailed out by email to everybody. It's the first time in all the times that we've done the show that we've had this problem, and we still don't know what the issue is. What we're doing is, for those of you who may have signed in on YouTube because you could not get the link for the Zoom show and want to join us on Zoom, we're going to post it in the chat function on YouTube. So if you're on YouTube and want to join us on Zoom, if you look at the chat function on YouTube, the Zoom login link for the Zoom show tonight will be there, and you can use that then as your login address. If that fails, you can send me an email, jimkello@newtracksmodeling.com, and I'll send you the login link for Zoom show tonight. With that said, thanks so much again for joining us this evening, if you got the login link. And we hope you come back often, and we hope you tell your friends about us. Now I want to turn to Father Ron Walters for the show's prayer. Father Walters, welcome.
Almighty God, just as our models imitate the beauty of your creation, may we imitate your kindness and generosity to us in our relationships with others. Bless us now and always. Amen.
Thank you so much, Father. We really do appreciate all your contributions to our show. We now want to run the video for the show's sponsor, Brennan's Model Railroading.
For over 25 years, Brennan's Model Railroading has been offering unique products for the O-scale market. Our flagship product, Brennan's Better Ballast, was an instant hit and continues to be the industry leader. Its prototypical size and natural color blend of real crushed granite make it the choice for discerning modelers. Since then, we've developed a complementary line of natural ground cover materials. Additionally, we offer craftsman kits that anyone can build with complete photographically illustrated instructions that assume you've never done this before. The Sonky Wanky Coffee Company is the latest and the fourth kit to be added to our ongoing and highly popular limited edition Ellison Tribute series. These kits take Ellison's scratch-built iconic structures to a new level with Dennis spin. The idea being that if Frank were alive today, this is how we would build these models using modern methods and materials. Use the QR code to visit our website.
Well, now let's go to Chris Course and Greg Cassidy to talk about the monthly My Bill segments of the show. Chris, Greg, welcome.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim. All right. Now coming up on the screen, you'll see the slide for December. The December challenge is interiors, the insides of buildings, engine houses, caboose interiors, whatever you can find to fit in that mold. It's a pretty big mold. So anyway, let's see, that show will be December 18th. To participate, please email me your photos to railrunner130@hotmail.com by the 15th of December. That way we can put them in a good slide order, and we can get everything in there. And additionally, if you have not participated in the past, please include a photo of yourself. That way we can put that on your introductory slide. And also, please, especially if you're new, especially please send us a description of what's in your photos. That way, if you have problems getting into the Zoom or whatever, we can talk about that with a reasonable amount of intelligence behind it. So, hey, Greg, it was good seeing you over the weekend.
Yeah, thank you. I'll tell you what I've already started doing with some of your stuff. But anyway, I wanted to tell everyone that I've already seen some of the submissions for interiors, and you have got to see that show. It boggles the mind what some people can do with the interiors of their buildings. And I was blown away when I saw some of these. So it's well worth your time to see it.
Yeah, this is going to be a spectacular show, so don't miss it. Anyway,
And that's on the 18th.
yes, December 18th. And so please have your photos to me by the 15th if you can, and we'll get those in there. So I'll turn it back over to you, Jim.
Well, thank you so much, Greg and Chris. Really do appreciate everything that you guys are doing. Well, now I want to talk about the scholarship and talk about it in a little different way. I'm so pleased that we're able again this year to be able to announce that we're going to be able to offer 3 $2,000 scholarships the 1st of June next year to 3 deserving model railroaders. And I'm so happy about that. The contributions that we're getting from manufacturers and from individuals is very significant, in my opinion, for the amount of time that we've been in business trying to do this. And because they're all voluntary contributions, and frankly, we're the only ones out there that started something like this. We tailored hours after Walter's program, and Walter's was the first company that came out that I was aware of that offered scholarships, and we're very supportive of their efforts. I've heard that the NMRA is going to at some point offer scholarships, and I think that's wonderful. And I can understand, if they're going to do that, why, they may feel that, they don't want to support ours right now and then, have to not support ours and do their own. I understand that. And I'm very supportive of them doing their own. I think that's a wonderful idea because, again, it's for the kids. It's for the future of our hobby. That's why we're doing our scholarship, and that's why we're encouraging other people to also join us and do the scholarship programs. Because there's only so much that an organization like ours can accomplish. And I think, we're doing pretty well being a bunch of volunteers with voluntary contributions. But I have a challenge for you. So far, the amounts of donations and support that we're getting from manufacturers, I think is fantastic. And that's, there's just nothing more I can say. Thank you so much to everybody that's doing it. We just can't thank you enough. The same for the individuals. We have right now 24 individuals that made contributions in 2024 that counted towards our ability to give these scholarships next June. But what I was hoping for is that we could get more broad spread support among the individuals in the hobby. And I really think that's important because most of the people in the hobby today, not all, but most, in my opinion, are older people. And this is for the future. This is for our kids, our grandkids, and trying to help them along the way. And even if we don't have kids or grandkids of our own, the future kids and grandkids that choose our hobby are going to be the future. They're going to carry on the kind of modeling that we enjoy, the kind of experiences that we had, the kind of capabilities that model railroading can teach a young person that they can benefit from in their future careers. So what I'd like to offer is a challenge to see if we can't get to 50 individuals in the next 3 shows. We've got 2 more shows after tonight in December, and then that closes it out. And what I'd like to be able to do in January is announce that we have gone from 24 individual contributors to 50 individual contributors. Now, I don't care how much you contribute. I just want you to be a part of our scholarship program. I want you to be involved in our scholarship program in a way that demonstrates how broad support there is by us older guys in the hobby to help the younger people who select our hobby be able to finance their education and become the future leaders of our hobby. So we need 26 people. I don't care, I don't care. I don't care if 26 people contribute $1. That's fine. I could care less the amount. We have sufficient contributions right now to cover the three scholarships that we're going to give in June of next year. What I want to do is show that the hobby in a broad base supports the scholarships program. Because what I really think is going to happen at that point is other organizations are going to say, look, if there's that many people that are supporting these kind of programs, then maybe we ought to take a look at being part of it too. That's in my mind why this is important to me. So if you have $5, great. If you got $2, wonderful. $1, I could care less. $200, great. Thank you so very much for your contribution. It's very generous. Whatever you can contribute is wonderful. You can do it one or two ways. And I think we have a slide, Phil, if we can show it now, of how you can make your contributions. You can either do it through Zeffy with a credit card, or you can write it on a check and send it to Tom Farrell at the address shown on this slide. And Tom then will deposit it into the account. And as I say, I don't care how much the check is for. I don't care how much you put on your credit card if you go through Zeffy. Zeffy won't cost you anything, and then nothing is deducted from the amount that you contribute through Zeffy. So if you send a check to Tom or you contribute with a credit card through Zeffy, our scholarship fund gets the exact amount of money that you gave on that check and the exact amount of money that you put on your credit card through Zeffy. Nothing is deducted. Your name is added to the list of the people who have contributed. It'll be in the next article that I write for O-Scale Resource Magazine, and it'll be in the January issue of our newsletter. So if you can see your way clear to give us $1 to show your support for the scholarship program that we instituted less than 2 years ago and had all the help in the world legally and financially to get it off the ground, we really would appreciate it. I'm going to make the same pitch for the next 2 shows because we have this show and 2 more in December, and then that's it. So we need 26 people. Please take a hard look at it. See if you're interested at all. It's all the information that you need about our scholarship is on our website, newtracksmodeling.com/scholarship, and consider making a contribution to show your support for the young modelers that are coming along in our hobby. I really do appreciate it. Phil, we have another slide that I want to show because our last show for December 2024 is scheduled for December the 18th. And then the first show for 2025 is going to be scheduled for January the 8th. The reason is Christmas Day and New Year's Day would be the 2 other dates that we canceled the shows out for. So we hope that you have a great Christmas. We hope you have a fantastic Happy New Year for 2025. We hope it's more prosperous than this year was, and certainly happy. So those are all the announcements that I have for this evening. And with that said, let's start the show. And the first segment that we have is O-Scale Modeling, with our sponsor being O-Scale Central Organization. So if we could run that video, Phil.
I'm David Vaughn of O-Scale Central. O-Scale 2-rail, models built to 1:48 scale and running on 2-rail track, is the best kept secret in model railroading. We're pleased to team with Jim Kello to introduce O-Scale 2-Rail to New Tracks viewers. O-Scale 2-Rail is for modelers. At twice the scale and 8 times the mass of HO, O-Scale's heft and ease of modeling create an outstanding model railroading experience. O-Scale 2-Rail modeling is as varied as railroading itself. Modern era, transition or old time, standard gauge or narrow. A wide variety of models is available at affordable prices. There is a supportive community and lots of shows, clubs, and events. You can explore O-Scale 2-Rail by going to our website, oscalecentral.com. You will find information about the scale and how to get started, as well as a free, searchable, scale-wide product and service guide and listings of coming O-Scale events. You will also find information about how to join O-Scale Central. We promote O-Scale 2-Rail and support modelers in the scale. When your eyes are going bifocular, when you need fresh challenges, keep O-Scale 2-Rail in mind. Check us out, oscalecentral.com. Thanks.
And our host for this segment is David Schultz. David, welcome.
Unfortunately, I think we're missing David.
Okay, well, we won't be able to do that segment tonight then. Our next segment is the High Rail segment of our show, and that is sponsored by Millhouse River Studio.
Millhouse River Studio builds model train working accessories that are made to last generations. Millhouse River products are built out of aluminum and have scale brass details that even the most demanding scale modeler will appreciate. Since our industry entry in 2009 with the introduction of our flagship turntable, Millhouse River has continued to add new, innovative products, like our scale transfer table, rotary coal dumper, flood coaling tower and, most recently, a working conveyor that transports coal from the dumper to the loader. All of Millhouse River Studio's stunningly realistic products are currently available in O-Scale. We are adding new scales on some products, including the upcoming release of an HO scale turntable featuring our aluminum construction and stunning brass details that is big enough to handle a big boy locomotive. When it comes to your layout, don't settle for less, get Millhouse River Studio.
And our host for this segment is Dennis Brennan. Dennis, welcome.
I don't think we're missing Dennis also. Yeah, ping both of them.
Okay. So I don't think that we'll have that segment this evening either then. Well, then let me go to Mr. Tom Ferrell, who is doing a build of one of Tom York's model of Becky Sue's beauty shop. Tom, welcome.
Okay, hold on.
Tom's not here either?
I'm here. Hold on. You hear me?
He's there. He's sharing. There he is.
Okay.
All right. Sorry. Just caught me a little off guard. You know, we had 2 in a row there. Okay. Well, this evening I'm going to feature a Frenchman River Model Works original Tom York design. It's called Becky Sue's House of Beauty. And Frenchman River Model Works is offering a discount on this kit to the New Tracks audience. The code is NEWTRX, and you'll get a 20% discount. So the list price for this is $89.95. With the discount, you're at $71. And 2 things on the kit. First, it's a Tom York original, first issue. And if anyone knows anything about Tom York, you know, he's a true artist. And, you know, he's like a living legend in the O-Scale world with his kits that he's made for the last 50 years. And this kit is no exception. It's a beautiful kit, as you'll see. And you can build it several different ways. I got permission from Frenchman River Model Works to take a little artistic license with this kit. And I'm calling mine Jack the Clipper. Little humor there, yeah. So let me start. This will be a two-part series. We'll go through half of the construction this show, and then next Wednesday we'll finish. So these are basically the two finished models. Mine is on the left, and this is as the instructions on the right. So you can build it as a Becky Sue's House of Beauty, or you can just freelance like I did. Nevertheless, here we go. So it's a resin kit, and what's nice about a resin kit is, in particular, a Tom York kit, is the exquisite detail on the brickwork. It is, based on my experience, the finest brickwork in the industry. And as you may recall, I did the Mickey Spillane building several months back. It's of equal quality on this kit. So you can see there aren't a whole lot of pieces to this kit, and it's not so much the difficulty in assembling it. The art in a resin kit is the painting of them. These pieces are also resin. They're just cast at a different color. So basically, this is one of the walls, and you can see that because they're cast, you get a slight lip on the back around the perimeter. And just as good practice, I sand that lip off with a fingernail file. I use these frequently. I get them at like a food store, like a Kroger. They're inexpensive, and or just use sandpaper, but I take that lip off, make it flat. Next up, having removed any flashing, which there was very little of, and taking the lips off of the 180 degrees around the perimeter on the reverse side, I sprayed everything with this surface primer from Tamiya. It's a very light primer. It's a non-filling primer. You don't really want to use an automobile primer on a resin kit because you don't want to fill in detail. There's a lot of highlights in here that are very slight, and wood grain and things, and you don't want a filling primer. That's the whole idea of the surface primer. Now, I masked off the bottom of this structure because you see there's brick, and then there's like a plaster over the bottom, because my next step is to use this rust spray from American Accents. It's a Rust-Oleum. Any basically burnt orange or a rust primer would work here, but I happen to have acquired this a couple years ago, and it's a spray enamel and then an acrylic top coat. If you've seen some of my programs with brick, this is my standby till I run out of it. Apparently, it's pretty difficult to find. So I just sprayed it with that enamel and let it dry overnight. Then I removed the masking tape. I actually forgot to mask the bottom here, but everything was sprayed with that Rust-Oleum enamel. Then I sprayed, then I put on the acrylic, this material here. Oops, sorry. This material here, I simply put on with a brush. It's a purplish acrylic mix. I painted that on, and then I removed it with a cloth, an old sock, to be honest. just wiped it off, and it left that residue in between the acrylic material, in between the brick and in some of the impressions in the brickwork. And then I removed the masking tape, and that's what I have left. Now I make it a practice to then seal everything with this dull coat. It's a spray lacquer from Testors. It's a flat. It just seals everything up. Because when I put on the next material, well, let me go back a little bit. I go back and I highlight some of the bricks with these three colors here. This rust color, this light rust, and this red brown. It gives a little variety to the brick, so everything's not just one color. This green is what I use for the doors and windows. As you'll see, I'll paint these by brush later. And this is my concrete color. It's a poly scale. And these are just weathering washes. So there I've painted the concrete color, the poly scale, onto the bottom of the model here. And I've used the Tamiya paint for the green here. It's just an olive drab. This is the front of the building. This is early in the process. I sprayed this with a chalk white paint, a Krylon chalk white. First, I primered it with the Tamiya light primer. Then I sprayed it with the chalk white. Then I went back with a brush and a Tamiya enamel military flat black, and I began painting this the trim just by hand. Now, the reason I spray everything with lacquer is that I want to seal that surface, because there's that acrylic that I hand brush underneath here to tone that orange down. If you don't seal the model with a lacquer and you put, for example, this Roberts brick mortar formula on there, you have the opportunity to turn this into a muddy red. It'll lift the potentially lift that acrylic off. So by spraying it with the lacquer, you prevent any muddying of the colors. Once this is on like this, I take a cloth, not a paper towel. Paper towel leaves lint. I take an old sock and I wipe the top of this off. And there is the finished, more or less the finished brick. It's a very effective technique. You're basically using layers of color. See the variance in color here? This is some of those alcohol washes in there, and there's some highlights from those three paints that I featured. You don't want it completely uniform in color. You want to show the variance in weathering, and in it just makes for more realistic brick. I'll go back, and as you'll see, I will give this concrete also weathering before I'm done. This is my Mickey Spillane building, which has similar brickwork. And the reason I show this is on the unfinished portion of my layout that will eventually have a street here, feature my Broadway Hotel, the Mickey Spillane building, and this new building. I build everything on plywood, as you see. This is from my old layout. This is new, and this is what the new building's going to sit on. Now, with resin, you have to use either epoxy or super glue. I prefer super glue, and I use a zip kicker, which is an accelerator, and it instantly hardens, cures these super glues, cyanoacrylates. It also super glue your fingers together, so you got to be careful. There's really just four sides. I didn't feel it was necessary to show that. So basically I started with the one of the sides. I just simply super glued it on there, and then put in the front. Then I super glued the other side on and put it on the back. So it just went very rapid. There's an up close of the brick. You can see some of the highlights of these other colors in there.
I cleaned this up. This is a water soluble, the filler. So I just went in there with a wet brush and cleaned that up. Still very early in the process here. I did some fill work later on, as you'll see in part 2. And I had to sand this to make it fit. So I went in there and touched that up with white paint. When you see this photo, if I jump to the finished building, the differentiation is miraculous between what you're seeing here and the finished building. But everything has a beginning, middle, and end. Now, I elected to freelance a little bit. I took Larkspur Laser MonsterWorks concrete sidewalk. It's available in HO, but it works for O scale. This is magnified greatly. This is laser etched to look like cracked concrete. I know this looks kind of crude, but I had to fit. I'm going to lay this sidewalk in the front of the building. See how this sticks out here? So I cut this out. Then I glued it in place with super glue. See how it fits? Pretty sharp there. Because this looks like it's cut incorrectly, but it actually fits the profile of the resin casting. Then I painted it with the polyscale concrete. They provide 2 squares of sidewalk. In their photograph, they show them on the front. I put them in the back to match the height of the Larkspur MonsterWorks sidewalk, which is very thin, 16th inch plywood, basically. I sanded this so it would match the height. I didn't want to step there. That is as resin cast. I went back, of course, and painted it with the polyscale concrete. Inside, I just cut a piece of, they provide a window material. I used my canopy glue and just glued that in place. Later, I'll go back and paint everything black inside. Now they provide signs. They provided these signs, or I'm sorry, this sign and this sign come with the kit. I went online and looked what haircuts cost in 1930. You could get a haircut for 25 cents and a shave for 15 cents. So I made these on PowerPoint, and I came up with this name, Jack the Clipper, and put this on a little piece of plywood, and these will all get weathered later. This will get touched up. Again, this is a process. So here I'm beginning the weathering process. This is a little heavy here. I used pan pastels. I went back and toned this down a little bit. I removed some of the brown. But you can see how I knocked the white down. It's sort of a brownish white now. But I wanted a nice weathered look to this. It gets better and better as we move on. And that's what I've got for you today. Part 2 will be a week from today. And we'll finish the kit. And on we go. Any questions on this?
Tom, this is Jeff. What do you do for the seams between the sides and the ends?
I fill it with plastic filler, for plastic models. I find that works on wood, resin, and plastic. I have probably 4 or 5 different brands. They all seem to work pretty much equally as well. They're really from the military modelers but that's what I use. I use that in a dental tool to just, I put a little out on a little piece of paper, and then I just take my dental tool and I push it into the crack. And then you can sculpt it. It dries pretty quickly, and you can't tell that it wasn't there. Once it's painted and everything, you'd never know it was filled.
So I find both the plaster kits and the resin kits, no matter how much you sand them, there's always a seam between those parts.
The plaster kit's like an Art Deco kit, or what are they called?
Downtown Deco.
Downtown Deco. Downtown Deco. I'll use a Sculptamold or a plaster for those, but everything else I use the plastic filler. I do urge everybody to support Frenchman River Model Works. If you like to see these kits and this work and these techniques, and they're offering a pretty healthy discount, a 20% discount. It's not an expensive kit. If you're an armchair model railroader out there, get out of your armchair and try this kit. Again, it's not a complicated kit. The art in a resin kit is in the finishing of them. All right. Thank you for listening. Unmute yourself, Jim.
Great job.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you. All right. Thanks so much, Tom. So now let's turn to Martin Brechbiel, MMR, for his scratch building forum. Martin, welcome.
Hey, Jim, I'm actually here, strangely enough.
Hi, Martin.
Good evening.
Yeah, one of the few.
Yeah, well, some of us can find our way around the maze, get here. So, tonight, we're going to start something new.
By the way, beautiful, beautiful newsletter you produced.
Oh, well, I have help. Everybody who contributed helped make it what it is, as did the proofreaders. So I merely just put it together with some staples and sealing wax and some glue. So that said, tonight we're going to start the Exacta passenger cars. Now, Exacta passenger cars are ancient history, even in the O-scale community. These were kits, and we're talking late 30s, early 40s. So probably older than most of the people here, with only a few exceptions, maybe. Nobody probably has fond memories of ever building one of these, I'm betting. So I picked up a pair of these off of eBay a couple of years ago, and they sat in the hallway on the stack of, the shelving on the stack of projects. And I decided a couple of months ago, I'm tired of looking at the dust that's on top of them. So the best way to get rid of that is to clean them off and get to work on them. They did not arrive in good condition. Not that they were in good condition to begin with, but the one came in a spontaneously disassembled form. This is one side and one end. These are embossed. These are actually pressed between dies. These are plastic, early 40s, no metal, plastic. It's embossed on both sides between a die under considerable pressure, apparently, and it's some sort of plastic. I have no idea what kind of plastic it is. They were nailed to the sides and glued with glue at that time, which didn't survive the shipping process. I pulled the nails out. Well, actually, no, I didn't have to pull the nails out of this one because it was already in pieces. That is hand lettered, New York Central and Hudson River. I try very hard not to ruin the exterior of these cars. I don't think I should do anything other than clean these, but putting them back together and tidying things up, fixing things that are wrong, perhaps, that are damaged, is where we're going on this. So that's where the scratch building is going to be on these cars. Here's the rest of the car. And that's about the shape that it arrived in. There was some glazing of dubious distinction on the inside. A lot of castings, most of them broken free, rattling around in the cardboard box and newspaper. So I'll show you those in a minute or two. This side was actually still attached. There's 4 nails in it. The nail holes are actually useful because that tells me which side goes on which side of the car body. So when I'm putting it back together, I'm looking for those holes to realign it so I get the right side on the right, the right car body side on the right side of the flat base. So that actually was useful. Here's the roof. It's a duckbill roof, which was kind of attractive for me. I mean, I like the time period. I should have mentioned the prototype for this car actually is real. It's a Wagner sleeping car. That's 1870s, 1890s. So these are not 20th century cars. These are 19th century cars. You can see we're missing a stack here, just a ripped out piece. I never did find it. It was not in the box or got lost in the box somewhere along the way. That's easy to fix. And here's the inside. It's a hollow roof, which is kind of nice. I don't know what the yellow material is that's nailed to it. I left it. I figured this is something I'm just going to leave alone. It doesn't look terribly bad. I like the yellow. We'll clean the dirt and the lint and maybe hand paint it and get it cleaned up. But other than that, we're not going to mess with this too much. But somebody spent some time making this roof. I'm pretty sure something of this complexity was not supplied as finished. So I think you had to make that. So 80 years ago, someone was very busy. Here's what came on the inside. These are all white metal, amazingly heavy. There's about 2 pounds of lead there. They're not going back in this car. So they're just wrong in every way possible, time-wise and weight-wise. They're departing for a new home. But these are early Walthers parts, very early. Here's your underbody, pretty basic, nothing fancy here. Truss rods up through the floor. Actually, they're not through the floor. They're actually looped into nail heads at the ends. Bolsters, steps, and a Lincoln pin coupler on one end with the pin still attached. So as much as this is really attractive and neat, I'm not going to be able to use it, and I don't have the other one. And finding a matching brass cast Lincoln pin coupler unit seems pretty close to impossible. I'll probably find one next week, having said that. However, at the time, I thought it was impossible. So that's going to get replaced. So it's a matter of just cleaning up and tightening up things. They're the trucks. They look a little rough, but once cleaned up, I think they'll be just fine. You're not going to really notice them. They're actually pretty nice given their vintage age. They're heavy bronze. They're not brass. They're not white metal. They're actually bronze. So we're in the Bronze Age. So what did I do? Well, we're going to see part of that tonight. I put a new floor in, first of all. Cleaned all that out, took all the residue off, cleaned it all out, sanded it down a little bit. New scribe siding floor. Since all those windows in a passenger car, you can see inside. So we have to make this a little more presentable from the outside in. And a nice floor is where we start on that. New brake wheels, clean up the platforms. One of the platforms was loose, and that took a surprising number of screws from the underbody to take it apart, take it off, tighten it back up, and remount it. And during remounting it, adding goo and CA and a little bit of other epoxy type glues to get it all situated and tight and snug. So we have a nice brass brake wheel at both ends now, just to make it look a little nicer. And we take the floor, and I stained it with Minwax stain. I like using Minwax stains, not just for the aroma, but for the appearance. This is one of the cherry stains. And I only had a little bit in a can with the hope of using it up on this project so I could dump the rest of it into my mystery Minwax jar. But cherry seemed to be nice. I didn't have any mahogany. Mahogany would have been my preference, but you work with what you have. Okay, new seats. These are started off being Walthers, went to Keelline, went to somebody else and disappeared from the marketplace as far as I know. You have to put these together. There are, oh gosh, 2, 4, 6 parts to each chair. They're a joy to put together. I mean that in the most facetious way possible. They can be assembled so that the backs will flip. The amount of precision in doing that eludes my fat fingers. So these don't flip. They're done as close as I could and get them decently assembled. Stop there. Okay, so we add some interior paneling to the sides. Well, I know how high off the floor I need to go because I have those nail holes, and I can just put it back in place temporarily, pin it with the nails, draw a line and say, okay, that's where my wainscoting and trim go. This is just 1/32 thick scribe siding, a lot of strip wood stacked in places, all glued down using goo and CA onto this plastic material. Again, I have no idea what the plastic is. It's three-dimensional on the inside as well as on the outside. So you can't really lay things flat. You have to work around it. So I just sort of made a fake framing around the windows. It doesn't go all the way up because that roof sits down inside the car body into the side. So I have to leave room for the roof to fit in. This is a lot of fun to do. So there's lots of little bits of wood, little bits of trim here and there and everywhere. And let's stain that also. So that gets cherry stained. And I touched up the yellow using, oddly enough, Signal Yellow, which actually took 3 coats. Despite being a really old bottle of polyscale paint, it still did not cover very well. So you have to go back and paint everything 3 times. It's amazingly tedious. This is where having really, really good music on your stereo and being very decaffeinated helps with the steady the hands and set the patience up. Paint one direction, turn it, paint the other, turn it, and paint the other direction. Work your way around again and again and again every window. And again, there's no point in going up any higher because the roof comes down and meets the top of the windows. And that's where I'm stopping this week. We're going to stretch this out through the rest of the month. There are 2 of these cars that I'm going to do. This one is the later vintage car. The other one is the old copper alloy Exacta car. And we'll get to, to finish this plastic one up next week. And then I guess January, we'll do the other car. So that's where I'm stopping tonight. Any questions? Now's the time to scream them out.
You got 2 more weeks this year.
2 more. Okay. I thought we had a my build.
You do, but I thought maybe you only have 1 more.
I think I only have 1 more. Unless I show
I don't know.
Christmas, unless I show
you're right.
myself
My
on.
build.
Okay. That's good.
Yep, I got you. All right. 1 more.
Okay, so anybody
have any questions?
Yes, I have a question, Martin. Yeah, you said it arrived in the mail. Is this something that you found on eBay?
Yeah, this was an eBay purchase. I'll not name the source, but it is one you would all recognize, and they are notorious for very poor packing and shipping, and lots of bulk sales.
It still looks like a neat find, though.
So I've only ever seen 2 or 3 of these cars. Actually, I've seen 2 or 3 in kit form. unbuilt, brand new in the box. And rather than buy them, I just sort of waved politely to them, not wanting to really dive into soldering the copper alloy sides and ends together and building these cars up from the ground. Restoring the two is tough enough as it is. I have a third car, but that one is not related to these two that was in the box. And it's in worse shape. So I'll be starting it next week in my shop, I think. Anything else?
Anybody else have any questions?
Martin,
Martin, thanks so very much. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Pat.
Martin, have you built a Walther's passenger car by chance with
Oh,
the
yeah.
metal side?
Yep.
I'm doing one right now, and it's quite a challenge.
There.
I'm detailing the inside, and I've run into, well, like you doing the floor and the sides. I've done all that already, but staining it was a lot of fun with the.
No, those are they can be. You can build those up to be beautiful cars, but they are not trivial to do. I mean, anybody can slap them together, but it's making them look really good. Well,
yeah.
Take your time and don't. Well, it's O scale. Suffer.
Yeah, it has that illustration board for the sides for the scribe siding. It's quite a challenge to paint that.
Oh, that's yeah.
It fits over the metal, eh?
Oh, what car is this?
This is a passenger car. It's a shorty with the fancy ends on it.
This
It's
one
all
was
metal on the ends. It's metal with it's covered over with the illustration board siding.
Is this one like about a 32, 34 foot car?
Yes.
One of the Sierra cars.
Yes.
Yeah, I've built 3 or 4 of those. They are painful because they're small.
Nice.
They're small. Actually, I have thrown away that cardstock, that scribes cardstock, and just replaced it with 1/32 scribed wood.
Well, I did the scribe wood on the interior, and I wish I'd done it on the outside.
Yeah, I learned the hard way. I went through what you're doing.
Yeah.
And learn not to do that again.
I'll fight it one way or another.
Yep. Okay.
Thanks, Tom.
Sure. Oh, before I forget, All Nation has brought those kits back out, but they are 3D printed now.
Oh, okay. Big difference.
Yeah, I saw them in Strasbourg back in October, so I know he has them.
Martin?
Yes, sir.
Before you get all this thing, and you mentioned the All Nation cars, I was considering doing one of those as a build along here, and I'm looking at the 3D printing on the thing, and it looks like there was a lot of the little dots in the 3D printing and stuff like this. How is the quality of the printing that you saw in their kits?
They're a little rough.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
They're not the real high end resin printing.
Right, that's what I thought.
Yeah. But for the price, well, the Walther, if you could, you're not going to find the Walther's ones,
right?
Unless you raid my project shelf. That's where that's where some of them are sitting. But yeah, those are. I'll ask John next time I see him in April.
Okay.
See if he's going to upgrade the quality of the print.
Yeah, if he would. I would like to do the project on new tracks here that we were talking about doing, but he's got to get that a lot better before I could do that.
Yeah. Okay.
And by the way, you're right. The magazine was awesome.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Martin. See you next week.
Yep.
Well, now I want to turn to Matt Woods for some more discussion on how he builds his dioramas. Matt, welcome.
Good evening, everyone.
How are you?
Yeah, Matt Woods here. I'm doing well. Hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving. I have another PowerPoint program for you tonight. If you recall, 3 weeks ago, I gave you kind of an overview of my modeling style, some of my dioramas and modules. You got a taste of my style of scenery for both kind of nautical scenes, but a lot of rural type scenes. So tonight I'm going to delve into my scenery techniques and show you some examples of how I accomplish that. So hopefully you'll enjoy it and pick up a few things. Bear with me.
Yeah, just click on share at the bottom and click share where it says share at the bottom. Click on the green. There you go.
Yeah, I'm not real proficient with
Hang on.
this technology.
Yeah, go ahead and start again. Click the green share, and then when the things show up, click on the upper left image. Click on share, and then when it opens up, you'll see a bunch of video windows. Pick the upper left. That shows your screen, and then you can just start your PowerPoint. Yep. Now just go ahead and put that into slideshow. Those are on a drive, so you just click on the first one you want to show.
Okay, I think we're good to go here. So
Cool.
as I said, I'm going to focus on modeling fence rows and tree lines. Scenery is one of my favorite aspects of the hobby. And for those who are familiar with my modeling, I guess I'm somewhat known maybe for my scenery. And, I always endeavor to create as realistic a scenery as possible. And I've presented this basic content a few different times at the Midwest Narrow Gauge Show and at the National Narrow Gauge Convention this past September. So this is going to be more specifically on just fence rows and tree lines. So here's a picture of a fence row.
So Matt, you're actually sharing your drive. So I'm going to stop that. So click again on share at the bottom. And then when it opens up, pick the upper left window, the upper left one. Don't look at the pictures, just click the upper left. There you go. We're seeing it now. Good.
So nothing I've shown. You haven't seen anything I previously showed?
Well, I don't know. We're seeing turkeys now in a field.
Okay, yeah, that's the second. Can I go back to
just click up. Just move it up. You can click it up, or you can use your scroller and scroll it up. There, you're good. Now we're seeing a track with some fence behind it.
Wait, here we go.
There you go.
Here's the opening
there
scene.
you go. Cool.
Okay, so modeling fence rows and tree lines here. And okay, yeah, this is an example of the type of thing that I am going to talk about. This isn't necessarily a tree line, but a fence row track side. Here's another tree line and fence row track side. Here's a winter version of a fence row. And these types of scenes, are very common, particularly in the Midwest. Along almost any right-of-way, branch line, or main line, you would have seen fence rows and tree lines dividing fields. And, it's just kind of a very common rural scene or site. Okay, the way I approach this particular scenic feature, it can be used to help create a 3D backdrop. It can help you kind of separate scenes and also contribute to the sight lines into your various scenes. Here's a picture of one of my HON3 modules. And I'm using, kind of a tree line as a backdrop and as trackside scenery. In recent years, there's been such a an emergence of new scenery products. And, it's fairly easy for most people to achieve some pretty realistic and good scenery. And for this particular project, there's a number of commercial products that make it very easy for us to accomplish, what I've kind of shown you so far. Here we have some Vallejo texture paste. We have the Woodland Scenics barbed wire fence. We have some Martin Wellberg thicket, and then an assortment of tufts from Gamer's Grass and Vallejo. Here's an example of what you can do with those products. In addition, some super trees. And here, my basic approach is a 3-layer approach, or 3 levels. So you have a grass tuft layer, you have a mid layer, which consists of the Martin Wellberg thicket, and then you have a upper layer, which is super tree material flocked with ground foam. Now, the first step is creating a scenic base. Before you can get into any kind of a fence row or tree line, you have to have a scenic base. Now, in this example, I'm going to show a trackside tree line and fence row. Some of the previous pictures were the finished scene, but I'm using air dry clay, DOS air dry clay, as a base layer on top of foam core. So I spread the air dry clay onto the foam core and texture it with a cut off China bristle brush. So the China bristle brush, as you smooth the clay out, you stipple the China bristle brush into the wet air dry clay, and it creates a dirt texture. This is critical for being able to paint the air dry clay. Otherwise, the paint does not adhere very well if it's allowed to dry smooth. Here, as I'm creating the scenic base, I've put full strength matte medium down, and then sprinkled on Woodland Scenics turf blend and some other red sawdust. And while the ground foam is still wet, I begin to put the tufts in. Putting the tufts into a wet base gives a more natural appearance. If you wait until everything is dry and then start trying to stick them on, they're floating more on top of the scenery. So it's more effective to start planting tufts while the scenic base is wet. Here's another shot, just building up the quantity of tufts. These are some autumn colored tufts to go with the autumn theme of the scene. And here's the scene dry, after it's had a chance to dry. As you can see in the upper left, I've established the area where the actual tree line is going to be. There's some deadfall and other debris that you would find in a forested area. The next step is to create that mid layer. And in this case, I'm using artificial steel wool as a mid-layer material. Now, artificial steel wool that is produced by 3M is a plastic fiber type material. It's not metal. So there's no concern about metal getting into any locomotive mechanisms or anything. But it comes in pads, and it's a dark gray coloration, and you have to tease it apart or tear it apart. And I've hot glued it on top of the area that's going to represent the tree line and fence row. So this creates kind of a mid layer of briars and underbrush. And what I've actually done is gone over the gray artificial steel wool and misted on some Tamiya NATO brown to kind of give it a brownish tone. Also in that scene, I had put the first super trees in. They've been painted a dark brown, and I've inserted them into the scene also. But here in this these two photos, I've actually flocked both the super trees with kind of an orangish ground foam representing fall trees, and the underbrush or the artificial steel wool has also been flocked with ground foam, just using hairspray as the adhesive. This is just another representation of these types of scenes. These are little examples that I made for the National Narrow Gauge Convention. Okay, here's another example of the process. I'm using XPS foam or insulation foam as a base layer. This would be a common material to start from to build up your scenic base. And one thing that you can do is to texture the styrofoam or the XPS. You can use a ball of aluminum foil, and you can imprint a ground texture into the raw XPS, and it imparts a nice ground type texture, because the ground is never completely smooth or flat. So having some variation in the surface texture is more realistic. So I've painted my foam with raw lumber acrylic paint. That's kind of my go-to base layer or base color for all scenery, and build up from there. And then, as you can see, I've used the Vallejo texture paste, which is a dark earth color, to further give a ground texture. I find myself, historically, I would have probably used some kind of sifted dirt attached with full strength matte medium, and relied on that mainly as my groundwork coloration. But I've found that the texture paste by Vallejo is an excellent medium for creating groundwork. And you can see I've also on the right, I've thrown in a little bit of some small rocks and gravel, just to give even more ground texture. Here, I've started putting in the ground foam, use full strength matte medium, and my base layer for almost all scenery is Woodland Scenics blended turf. It has more of a brown tone to it, and it kind of represents the first layer of dead stuff on the ground. And then I build up with Scenic Express leaf litter on top of the ground foam. You would find a lot of dead leaves and so forth in any kind of a tree line or fence row. Here, I've established a fence row using the Woodland Scenics barbed wire fence product. It's an excellent product. You get about an O scale, probably 30 inches or so of a pre-strung barbed wire fence. So it's plastic post with a wire embedded in the post, and it comes folded up, and you can unfold it and use whatever length you need, and you create holes in your groundwork and glue it in place. And it's just an excellent, simple way of creating a barbed wire fence. Historically, I've used wooden dowels that I've scribed with a razor saw and cut to an appropriate height, about an inch, and inserted them into holes, and then actually strung it with thread, rust-colored thread. But that can be rather tedious. So, this Woodland Scenics product is quite useful. It comes in both HO and O scale, and actually N scale. And here I have a package of gamer's grass, autumn 5mm tufts that I'll start incorporating around the fence post, creating that initial level of scenery. Here's a couple or three more pictures of just the process of used some Martin Wellberg high thicket in the dark winter tone, and the tufts. Just putting them on one by one in a fairly dense pattern to create a kind of a grass and mid layer. Here you can see I've put painted super tree material, painted with Rust-Oleum dark brown, into the scene. Now you can flock the super trees before you would plant them into a scene. Put whatever ground foam color you want onto them, but I find it just as easy to plant them after they've been painted, glue them in place, insert it into holes, and that gives you more of a sense for, how the scene is going to look. And then you can spray hairspray onto these and put your ground foam onto the super trees. So that's what that looks like after you've flocked the super trees. Here's just a little vignette that I made of a fall, kind of a corner of a field with a stump, cut off stump made out of a dowel and air dry clay. A good way to develop scenery techniques is to make little vignettes or mini scenes in practice, just the colorations you want to use, and use them as scenic studies, so to speak. Here's a prototype reference photo that kind of exemplifies what I'm trying to achieve with these tree lines and fence rows. Another example. This is on my HO layout. You can see where I've used the super tree to create a tree line and a three-dimensional backdrop. And I've essentially used the same procedure that I've shown in this presentation, but on a larger scale, using pretty extensive super trees with leaf flake flocking. And in this case, in the layout situation where you have a backdrop, masonite backdrop, you actually paint a kind of a tree line with gray paint, and then you can take the artificial steel wool and super glue it to the wall and use that as a kind of a view block, so you can't see through the super trees as easily. and it looks more like a dense forest, and then put the super trees in front of that, and it creates a very effective three-dimensional backdrop. Here's another example. And that's kind of the conclusion, but the point is that, tree lines and fence rows are just a very ubiquitous element that you'll find in rural type scenes. And it's a simple thing to model, and it gives a very effective scenic element. And you can go with whatever season you're interested in. I particularly like fall, and kind of seem to favor fall, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Matt, this is Greg. I've got a quick question about the Woodland Scenics fence that you used.
Yes.
I recently did one of those, used that product on our club's N-scale layout, and doing it in N-scale was difficult because what I found was you could pull one of the fence posts taut, but then when you had to finally put it in the hole, the barbed wire, the string didn't stay taut, and I had difficulty trying to get them to stay what looked like properly strung all the way along the roadway I was doing it on.
I agree.
Problem?
Yeah, I agree. I've had that difficulty with the HO. You think you have it taut.
Yeah.
And the little plastic pin on the bottom of the post is a much smaller diameter than the post. And you have to be careful not to break off that little nub, but it is a challenge to get it perfectly taut. Next week, I'm going to show some actual fence that I made with just dowels and thread. And, if you're willing to put in the time and do it that way, I think it looks as good, if not better. But from the standpoint of, one of the few commercial products that I actually like to use, the Woodland Scenics is kind of a shortcut.
It is, and it came out looking good. The advantage of N-scale is it's so small it's hard to tell that it's not that, but
yeah, I agree that the wires kind of droop and buckle a little bit, and they're not quite as taut as what you'd like to
one
have.
would want, right? All right, thank you. It looks awesome, and lots of great tips in your presentation.
Thank you,
Matthew. It's Pat here.
Yes.
On your super trees, what did you say you used for flocking or putting on the tree?
That is some old Bachman ground foam that unfortunately I'm running out of, and I don't know if they still make it. It was kind of just an orangish tone that I picked up a number of years ago. I have a yellow also that Bachman made. I'm hoping that maybe I can find some at a train show somewhere, or always on the lookout for it. I think that probably Scenic Express makes something that's comparable, but this was almost a blended fall mix, and I've used it pretty extensively on most of my fall scenery.
Very nice work, Matt.
Thanks. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have questions? Matt, thank you so very much. Look forward to seeing you next week.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Well, now I want to turn to Steve Sherrill for his What Do You Want to Talk About? Welcome, Steve.
You're muted, Steve.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Tonight we're going to talk about trains at Christmas. So a lot of us have had train layouts at Christmas. We visit homes that have layouts. We've even probably made some some train gifts to give to people that we know. Tonight, I'm going to go over a few things that I have been doing and share with you. One of which is making a gift for my daughter and her husband for Christmas. And so let me get all these pictures in line here. 1 minute. Okay. Whoops, that's not it. Let me start again here with these. Stop the share. Okay. All right. We're going to start one more time. Okay. Now, I started out with the cutting board, and I was going to make a micro layout for them. And so this is a 19-inch cutting board, and you can see that it's made so it can hang on the wall. Now, it's got Cato track on it, 7-inch radius. So it's a 19-inch cutting board. I've taken 14 inches away, so I've got 2 inches on each side, other than the neck down here. Now, I used a cutting board for this special instance because they live in a downtown historic Harpers Ferry, right in the visitors area, and they don't have much room for layouts or layout. And this way, when they finish at Christmas, they can hang it up. And my daughter likes to change things for the season, so she'll go and put something springtime in there once the Christmas decoration is finished. So I went ahead and I did a mock-up, which was this. Now, this is a thing I got from Hobby Lobby. It lights up, and the little snowman at the bottom goes around in a circle. Now, my daughter likes groundhogs, so I got her a stuffed groundhog, and this groundhog is watching that little snowman go around, and I'm going to get a little Santa Claus hat to put on him. And so that thing lights, flash, all the Christmas trees will light up and flash and everything. And so they're going to like that. And the train will be running around. I actually have a streetcar, and I'm working on that. So I'll be able to show you the results of that next time. So I need to, so one of the other things that is going on right now are people are starting to decorate their Christmas trees, and they're putting up their Christmas layouts. And so I had a friend of mine send me pictures of his layouts. He's got an old farmhouse, and every 2 years, he decorates the entire house. And so every room has a train layout in it of some kind with a Christmas tree. And so he will look something like that. Every room will have one of those. And he probably has 10 or 12 Christmas layouts up. And I know that many of you will remember, here's a 1950s Christmas layout. And maybe you can remember that your father set one of these up, or your family had one. There's a lot to be enjoyed with this type of Christmas celebration. You can see old tin plate railroad. This is probably in the 50s for sure. And so one of the other things that's going on now are train displays. And many areas have some kind of a train display that you can go visit. And Greg has some. And Greg, if you want to show what you have.
Okay, let me bring mine up, Steve. You go ahead and stop your sharing.
Okay.
Now, what we have here in the Washington, D.C. area, and I assume everybody can see my slide. I hope everybody can see it.
Yes.
The Washington, Virginia, Maryland Garden Railway Society is a large organization of garden modelers. And every year for the last 10 years, they've set up a holiday display in the Brookside Gardens Holiday Train Display. And this takes place in Brookside Gardens Conservatory that's at Wheaton Regional Park in Wheaton, Maryland. And it's well known in the Washington area. So I first have a couple pictures of them setting this up. They have about 30 to 40 workers that work on this for about 2 weeks, starting in mid-November. And each year it's a different track plan and a different layout. But they take one end of the conservatory and devote it to the Holiday Railroad. And each day they do a little more work to it. They get a little more track down. They get a little more of the scenery built. And they also have some of the people that work at the botanical gardens there come in and help put in the scenery. They'll pick appropriate plants that are scaled properly and decide where they look good, just like Matt's fence lines. And then once they're done, they end up with something like this. And as I said, each year, it's a different track plan. The town could be at one end one year and at the other end the next year. And the rest of the conservatory is still open, and they have all these beautiful tropical plants and everything in it. So this is what you see when you first walk in. And in previous years, they've had these chains around it, primarily to keep toddlers from climbing up onto it. As you'll see later, that doesn't always work. But they run this from late November through to early January. And it's open pretty much every day except for the holidays. And kids love to come see it. You know, they never get enough of Thomas or some of the big freight trains running or the passenger trains. And some of the structures that you see on here are actually replicating structures that are in the area, such as this is the conservatory, a model of the conservatory. And again, they have the plantings put in place, and they always have at least 2 trains running. They have 2 tracks that go around the outside. And they'll run a couple of trains for maybe 15, 20 minutes and then switch over to 1 or 2 other trains and run those. And the members are also allowed to bring in their Garden Railroad trains and run them. And you can see how intricate some of the track work can get depending on the track plan that they use that particular year. And some of the varied locomotives that they get. Now the track is powered, but many of the members' locomotives that they bring in are battery powered or dead rail. So they can run either or both at the same time. They always have a couple of docents there that can answer questions about the layout, and they're the ones who are running them and switching the trains and stuff. And they also have over here on the right, I didn't get a good picture of it, they have a little scavenger hunt for the children. They hand them sheets of paper that have pictures of maybe 9 different characters. There might be Minnie Mouse, or there might be a dinosaur, or there might be a woman with a camera. And the kids are encouraged to run around the whole layout and find all of them and point them out. Here you have one of the Thomas the Tank engines in front of another one, and sometimes you'll see both of those running. Sometimes you'll have one of those running along with an 1890s passenger train or a 1970s freight train. And here's a couple examples of some of the replications of actual buildings in this area. There's a very famous general store that's now closed, but it's still a historical building called the Red Door Store. And they have a model of that there. And there's also another closed but historical building in Montgomery County that was called the Cider Barrel, been there for 90 years. And they have a model of that on the railroad as well. And an example of the variety of equipment that they can have running at any given time. And for example, inside the conservatory, they even have, inside all those steamed up windows, a replica of the model railroad. And some days you can see it better than others. It's always usually a little steamy in there because of all the tropical plants. Sometimes they have water features, such as this. And I explained to you that they used to have the chains and those posts. Well, 2 years ago, they had a toddler who, as soon as he came in the door, he just saw the trains and he just went barreling right through the chains, right up onto the train track to play with the trains. So they've actually built more of these plexiglass panels that go around it, and they're doing a little bit better job of keeping toddlers from climbing up to play with the trains. The areas that are open is where you have plants that kind of go out. And another thing I'd like to show you in this photo, along that back wall, they have a trolley line. Now that trolley line replicates the DC trolley system that ran out to Glen Echo Park. And here are a couple pictures of buildings that are along the trolley line, and they all replicate actual buildings that were at Glen Echo. And then of course down here you have the car barn. And again, each year it'll be a slightly different arrangement of it, but the trolleys just keep running back and forth from Glen Echo back to the car barn, which is down in Georgetown in DC. And this is what it looks like this year. And if anybody's in the area, they'll be open until January 3rd, I believe it is. And once again, here you can see the holiday trains inside the conservatory there. And so that's what I have, Steve.
Thank you, Greg.
Mm-hmm.
One of the towns that is nearby where I live, every merchant had a train display at Christmas. That was Martinsburg, West Virginia. At one time, it was a big railroad town, and all the merchants have a train display. When I was into G-Scale, we used to put one up in the bank in town, and I have an article that shows the train display. And I was holding my son when he was 2 years old. He's now 32. So, you know, that was a long time ago. But that was in the local papers. Many times in the previous years, the big department stores had train displays in the windows. I'm not near any big department stores anymore. So I don't know if that still goes on. If anybody can help me out here and let me know, I'd appreciate it. I know we all have a lot of memories when we were young, the layouts that we had. I got my first one in 1947, and I've had a train ever since, of some scale or another. So that was, 77 years ago. So I've enjoyed them all this time. Anybody else want to share any of their memories at Christmas time with trains? Dropping tinsel on the layout, and watching the sparks.
Yeah, Steve.
Yes.
We lived in northern Arkansas area in from 2004 to about 2009, or maybe a little earlier than that. But anyway, we were in St. Louis, and the department stores in St. Louis, even that time, was doing a full window display of the trains and stuff, just like they saw in the 50s and 60s when I was growing up.
Well, we used to go to Washington, D.C. to Heck Company, Woodward Lothrop's, and you'd go down there and there'd be people 4 and 5 deep looking at the train displays. It was a real great thing. It was an annual trip. We'd go downtown. Same thing in Silver Spring when I was growing up there. I don't know if they don't have that anymore. I'm sure. I think all the big stores have left, haven't they, Greg? Greg,
Yeah,
you still
they've all moved out to the suburbs.
Everything's gone now.
Yeah.
But
Hey,
you know,
Steve,
yeah.
Tom Farrell here.
Yeah, Tommy.
I have the original, this is 60 years old. It's the only remaining car I have from my first train set. Used to go around at Christmas. And we say
I gave my original train set to my uncle. He had 4 little boys, and I never saw it again. I don't know what happened to it.
somewhere I have the Caboose, but I don't know where it is. But this is the one I have on display anyway. 60 years old next year actually. So
You're doing a little better modeling now, Tom.
Yeah, I grew up in Cleveland area, and it was a big thrill to go down to downtown Cleveland and see the Macy's display and all the displays in the store windows when I was a little kid in the 50s.
Well, I don't know. When you're in an area where the seasons don't change, how you handle Christmas season, because that's typically a winter time. Maybe somebody in California can answer that question, but or Florida. It's hard to deal with Christmas when it's 75 or 80 degrees out there.
Well, no, Christmas, it gets down into the 60s, maybe into the 50s. So it is a change.
Yeah.
I can send you some snow if you want.
Yeah, you get down to 20s, it'll be in the 20s here tomorrow.
I spent most of my adult life in Southern California, and trust me, it gets cold.
Steve, does anyone here remember Hudson's in Detroit, Michigan? Had the huge displays up on the top floor of the toy department. Had all the Lionel trains running around and everything else. That was amazing.
I remember seeing a video about it just a couple of years ago. It was filmed from back in the 50s or 60s.
Yes, it was amazing.
The amazing thing is that the day after Christmas, the next day, the day after Christmas, they would have the Christmas layouts up.
Yeah.
They'd work all night and have everything going.
Yeah.
They changed, hats off to them. And they had really nice layouts too.
But Hudson's is gone now, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of it.
I might remember the 11th floor of Gimbel's in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I do.
Wow.
How about Phipps Conservatory, Pittsburgher? How about that big layout, which is now in the Science Center? Yeah.
That was the Buell Planetarium.
Buell Planetarium, you're right.
Phipps Conservatory always had a G-scale garden railroad in one of the rooms.
Yeah, I meant Buell Planetarium, but that's still up in the Science Center now. A huge Lionel O-scale layout combination. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well, one thing about trains, you can't shoot your eye out with the trains.
Depends what level you were at.
Christmas story lives.
Also depends on how close you get to the damn trains.
Of course, Lionel did have that one that shot rockets, remember?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they still have that? They put that out again?
Yeah, I used to fire mine off in the basement and hit the ceiling. My mother always said, "What the heck are you doing down there?"
this has been fantastic, but I think we need to go to the next segment because Phil and Tom and Jeff have a layout tour from the narrow gauge convention in Pittsburgh. So Steve, thanks so much for doing this tonight. It's been fascinating and interesting and brings back a lot of memories.
Thank you.
Amen.
Good evening.
So Phil, we'll turn it over to you and Steve, Jeff and Tom for your video.
Well, we would, except for that my video editor decided to blow the video up and it is not playing right. So we have something different. We're going to do something different tonight. We will have a narrow gauge layout tour next week. So last weekend, not this past weekend, but a week ago, has anybody heard of the Yosemite Shortline?
Yes.
Yes.
So the YSL was actually built by a bunch of very famous California modelers for the narrow gauge convention in 2004. And it was intended to be a short-term layout. Over the years, it was taken over by some other folks. Some of the original modelers kind of moved on. Some of them passed away, quite frankly. But a week and a half ago, it was set up kind of for the last time. What's happening is some of the modules or sections are being repurposed as modules for the California Central Coast. So I've got a video about that, and I'll just go ahead and play that this week, and we'll go to a layout video next week. So here we go. So it's a pretty cool modeling. I'll leave the audio down. It's just some music, so we can talk. Anybody wants to make any comments? So,
What's the size of this layout, Phil?
it's ON30.
No, but I mean, how big? Big an area?
You'll see some pictures of it in a minute. It's about 22, 23 by 12, and it's basically open in the middle, but it's got, as you can see, it's got backdrops all the way through. So you kind of walk around the outside. And of course, part of the problem is it was constructed not to last, so things have had to be rebuilt through the years.
Still looks pretty good.
Yeah, some pretty amazing modeling. You'll see some other pieces here in a moment that are pretty cool.
Who were some of the modelers involved in the construction of this?
I don't know all the names, but you know, it was Jim Long was involved. I don't know all the names, so I wouldn't try.
Okay.
I was going to get a list, and I ended up not. But it was, you know, it was best in show at the 2004 convention, and I think again in what was it, 2018 or 19, when the narrow gauge convention was out here on the West Coast.
There you go, Pat. You can probably name every single implement in there.
I think so. Looks a lot like the one I got.
Yeah, very well done. You know, the cool thing, of course, is this gets set up where the public can actually see it.
Yeah. Nice. I gather you took the video, eh, Bill?
Yeah.
Is this modular, Phil?
It's sectional. So it sets up only one way. So
if somebody doesn't show that, they can't set it up.
well, it almost all of the modules you'll see in a moment. I think there may be a picture here at the end. If you kind of look around, you can see this is in a cabinet shop. One of the guys has a cabinet shop. But you may see in a moment that there are boxes for all the modules except for a couple, and they all stay and are stored there. And that's part of why it's being taken apart, is it's just gotten too long to store. It doesn't get used that much anymore. Well, it's only gotten set up a couple of times in the last couple of years.
So they're going to take it all apart, or are they just going to
no? What some of the modules are what you're seeing right now. The sawmill and this part are going to get repurposed into the California Central Coast ON30, so it'll become part of the modular railroad. Which kind of means that the backs are going to get taken off and it's going to get changed a little bit so that it can be viewed from both sides. So this in bridge module will also be reused.
Yeah, I've seen this layout many times. It's a fabulous layout.
You never get tired of it.
No.
What's
There's
going
a lot
to
of detail in there.
happen to the rest of it, Bill?
So on the back side, when we go around, that part will go to, we'll end up going to, they're trying to put some of it in a museum, but just as a static display. You got a little bit of skirting there. And then the ones you've seen so far, most of those will end up being converted. And the bridge here at the end is going to be converted. And then the ones that we'll see on the other side here, the stamp mill, etc., they're hopefully going to end up in a museum up in Vallejo. So you can kind of see the size of it here and the length of it on this side.
Is it running at this time, Phil?
Yeah, you'll see actually in a little while. You see the boxes there in the background. That's where all the modules go.
Wow.
They all go in boxes and get stored.
This is what, ON3?
ON30.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, this was in the early days of ON30, relatively early.
Pre-Bachman.
Well, actually, so this was built in 2004. So Bachman, I think it started bringing some stuff out then, but it was again pretty early.
98, I think.
And stamp mills has a lot of scale metal castings in there. Nice.
Yep.
That's probably a West Side Western Scale Models one.
Yep.
Wow.
I'll enjoy it. We won't be seeing it all again.
Yeah.
And TSG Multimedia actually was filming. Part of the reason for setting it up was they were going to film that day, and they do, and they had interviews. They're having interviews with all the original modelers that are left about doing it and building it. So when that comes out, it'll be probably worth seeing.
Yeah. The weather on that track is nice.
Nice engine house.
Yep.
Rub it in, Steve. And just get no respect.
The locomotives look like they're Bachmann Shays.
Yeah.
Yeah, and remember that most of the folks that operate this now are not the original builders. I mean, because like I said, a lot of the original builders have passed on. You know, Dave Connery was one of the original folks, and it hasn't been actively involved for probably 10 years in the layout.
Amazing. Did they have it running when you were taking this?
Yeah, you'll see it running in just a second. They weren't right here because they were actually just finished up the filming when I did this. And
it's a shame they don't put the whole thing in a museum, let it be that way.
yeah, the problem is everybody who had a museum that could be interested wanted people to be there to support it and run it.
Right, that's the problem.
So John and Sydney were videotaping. The next part's a little bit of them videotaping.
Yes.
Nice cabinet shop.
Yeah. Great. If you're a modular railroad, a modular group, you need to recruit a cabinet shop owner to be part of your group.
Yeah. You know where the credits run. And then the last thing I want to do is catch it going over the trestle at the end here.
When I did cabinet building, there was too much sawdust around for it to be in there. I don't know how you keep it clean.
They did it just for that.
Yeah, this is kind of the assembly room in the cabinet shop. It's a big. This is the small area. It's a much bigger cabinet shop.
I like the sound. You got sound in it.
Yep.
Was that later installed, the sound, or was it just
No, it's on. They're DCC. It's all DCC. So it's DCC sound in the locomotive.
Digitrax?
Well, it's actually NCE.
Oh, is it NCE?
Yeah, it's an NCE system.
Okay,
yeah.
I saw it there, yeah.
You know, interesting thing is Digitrack's real popular on the East Coast, but NC's real popular on the West Coast.
Oh, I love that ending.
Yeah, I like it. That's the best part.
Anyway, I apologize. Actually, what's interesting was I was trying to reformat it and actually got done just before that started. So we'll have the video of a really cool East Broadtop ON30 layout for next week to see. So at the beginning of about, I think 7 or 8 layouts we're going to have. Some of them are really cool. So
that was good
with that, thanks, Jim, we'll throw it back to you.
Phil, you're really getting to be a fantastic person to videotape all of these shows that you're doing. I mean, that was spectacular. So thanks so much for sharing.
Well, I got to tell you, when it comes up on TSG, I'll make an announcement here, because when they come out with their video, you know, they were there for 6 hours videotaping.
Jeez.
So, you know, they set up, like you saw him set up there, they set up at like every scene, and set a scene up, light it, and then run the trains through. So when you actually see the video, it actually is the train going through the layout, and it's that kind of, it's really pretty cool. They do very nice layout videos. So anyway, enough said, back to you, Jim.
Well, thanks so much for doing it and sharing it with us tonight. That was really interesting. Well, thanks so much for joining us, everybody. I'm sorry that we didn't have some of the segments that we had planned, but things happen. And this is getting close to the holiday season. So we've all got busy lives right now. But thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the show. Most importantly, I hope you learned something. That's what they're all about. So happy modeling. See you next Wednesday.